Hello fellow aviators, aviation lovers and simulation enthusiasts, and welcome to another Pilot Dreams channel tutorial flight. Today we're going to learn how to perform an Autoland or an ILS Category 3. As you can see, we're performing a hold, and the next waypoint after the hold is going to be Rupsa, which is the interception point for ILS 07 right in Frankfurt. Weather, as I mentioned, is cloud-based between 50 to 100 feet with visibility of 200 meters, which is exactly the legal minimum. We already prepared the aircraft for landing, and if you want to learn how to do that, you can check the link in the description below for the ILS Category 1 and full descent tutorial, where you can learn how to prepare your aircraft for descent. The only difference for today is that we're going to perform an ILS Category 3, which requires us to radio altimeter minimums and not baro minimums, so let's change that. The minimum buttons is over here, and we change it from baro to radio altimeter and set it to 50 feet, which is the legal minima for ILS Category 3A. Of course, that depends upon your crew qualification, the aircraft qualification, and the airport qualification. Let's do the same thing for the first officer, so we set it to radio altimeters and to 50 feet. We won't go over the descent procedure and checklist. As I said, you can find a link in the description below to how to do that. We just changed the minimums, so when really the descent checklist will be landing data, flaps 30, 140 knots, and minimum set to 50 feet radio. So with no further ado, let's proceed. Let's assume the air traffic controller has cleared us direct to Rupsa, and we're taking direct Rupsa. Execute, and we should of course reset the MCP altitude. So let's say clear us also to descend 4,000 feet. So we set the MCP for 4,000 feet, declare 4,000 in the cockpit, and the pilot monitoring should acknowledge 4,000. We're still a little bit below the profile. The aircraft should start descending when meeting the vertical profile. LNAV, VNAV path, FMC speed, follow with the heading. And as we can see, upon reaching the flight path, the aircraft will reduce the thrust and start descent automatically because we're on VNAV path. Always make sure you have VNAV path if you want computer assisted descent. Okay guys, and since today we're having a tutorial over here, I might pause from time to time. In the meantime, while descending to Rupsa, we should say some things about the ILS Category 3. We should expect at about 1,500 feet to see the mode changes from single channel to command, and to see that the flare mode is on. This will ensure us that the aircraft will flare automatically. Of course, when reaching the minimums, we should verify that we have the runway inside, and if we don't have the runway inside, we should go around. I will do another tutorial about how to go around in ILS Category 3 and also in ILS Category 1. In the meantime, the temperature is above 10 degrees and the engine anti-ice is on, so let's go and switch it off. Okay, both engine anti-ice switches are off, and I'll see you closer to Rupsa when we start reducing speed and closer to intercepting the ILS. So the glide slope live over here. The ILS is identified India Foxtrot Sierra Echo, which is Frankfurt ILS frequency, and as you can see, we're approaching the deceleration point, and once we reach that, the FMC will reduce the speed. You will probably see here the speed going down to the flaps up speed. Here it happens, and also it starts snowing. I don't know if you can see it. You can see it's snowing pretty heavily at the moment. We are approaching Rupsa, which is the interception point, and we don't want to intercept the ILS, especially not in Category 3 Autoland, in more than 185 knots. So let's start extending our flaps. Pilot flying is calling for flaps 1, and the pilot monitoring answer flaps 1 and set the flaps to 1. And we're below the 250 knots, so in a second we'll also be able to extend flaps 5 before the interception point. Now you can see the wind is jumping back and forth. This is because the wind is gusty, so in this case I always like to keep 5 knots more than the flap setting speed. And how to do it, so let's extend to flaps 5. Flaps 5. Thank you. And you can see the speed over here. How do I override it? Well, I press over here the speed intervention, and you can see that opens the speed window. Now the speed is controlled by me, so let's set this one up to 175 knots. That would be good enough. And of course, at this moment, the air traffic controller should clear us for the approach, sounding like Pilot Dreams Flight. You are cleared for the ILS 07 right. So we're pressing Vorlock. Now it's going to get really busy in the upcoming 1 minute or so, because we have to intercept the localizer, arm the second autopilot, set the go-around altitude, set the heading. So please pay attention to everything that is going to happen. So we have Vorlock armed, and we're waiting for Vorlock to turn green, meaning that the localizer will be intercepted. Vorlock is green, so we press over here approach. The glide slope is armed. Now the glide slope is green, single channel. Now we go and press the second command. Let's enlarge it a bit. You can see the second command because we're on a dual channel approach. It still says single channel until 1500 feet, and we also intercepted the localizer, so we should set the go around altitude, which is 5000 feet for ILS 07 right, and of course set the heading to the runway heading, which is 068. Got this one covered. One milestone is behind us. We intercepted the glide slope. Everything looks good. All the modes are set. Next stage will be the automatic callout of 2500 of the radio altimeter going online, and we should follow that by a callout of radio altimeter alive, especially in ILS category 3 with Autoland, because the minimum, as I said, is a radio altimeter minimum. And if the radio altimeter is not working, we cannot proceed with an Autoland ILS category 3. 2500, there is the call, and the answer is radio altimeter alive. So let's start with taking the gears down. So gear down. And flaps 15 please. Set the speed for flaps 15 plus 5. Always a good idea to keep some spare. So 160 knots, usually this is what controllers we want. Pilot monitor at this time should set the lights. Give the chime to the flight crew. And you can also start the wipers, because we're gonna lead them if it's snowy outside. Or we're gonna set also flaps 30. Set the speed. We'll do rear plus 7 because of the wind. That will be good. And let's do this landing checklist. Speed brakes armed, landing gear down with 3 lights, flap 30. And now the pilot flying is monitoring the visual cues. We should have runway in sight, and in about 50 feet the flare mode should change from armed to active. And over here we should see retard. If it doesn't happen, we should go around. If we don't see the runway at 50 feet, we should go around, which would be toga flaps 15. If we see and touch down, we should disengage autopilot auto throttle, maintain the runway heading, and we can see the approach line down over there. Approaching minimums. And here is runway in sight. Minimums landing. We can see flare armed, retard. Wait for touchdown before you disengage everything. Touchdown. Disengage the autopilot and auto throttle. Apply reverse thrust. Maintain runway heading. As you can see, the aircraft is braking pretty good, although the runway is snowy. The reverse thrust plus the auto brake does the job. And at 60 knots, you can leave the reverse thrust. I'm not vacating over here because it's snowy, so I might slide to the side if I vacate at 50 knots, which was the speed, and we'll go for the next vacation point. Okay, 20 knots when vacating a snowy and icy runway. It's always a good practice not to go too fast. You might skid or slip aside. And that's it for today, guys. As you saw, the category 3 ILS Autoland. It's quite a simple approach. The biggest challenge over there is to identify the runway on time and to make sure that the autopilot modes are switching in the right order and you have everything that is required for landing, and to be ready to go around. And this is the real trick over here, to be ready to go around in a very low altitude in case that you need to. We're going to do a special tutorial about that next time. And until next time, fly safe and see you.